Okay, so another thing I want to talk about was how there was an article yesterday in the Rolling Stone magazine, which is a magazine about sexy famous rock stars and all the cool stuff they do. And this article was written by Robert Kennedy Jr., who is, I think, the nephew or maybe something else, but is somehow related to a president of the United States who was very famous and who had a wife, and they were both very famous and sexy, and he had sex with Marilyn Monroe, I guess, and also he was in a movie that was made by Kevin Costner. He was a character, so that's pretty much as famous as it gets. Anyway, Robert Kennedy Jr. wrote this article that said that the election in Ohio was obviously stolen because exit polls are always right, no matter how you do them, and that's just true because. Now, I don't really believe this because it doesn't sound very likely to me, but I don't really know. Maybe it is. And also what seems unlikely to me is that Robert Kennedy Jr. would know this and nobody else would, basically. But again, I don't know. Maybe he does. But given the fact that I don't think this is true, and I don't think that this person would know it's true, nevertheless, for reasons I can't explain, I read the whole article. And not only that, I read the whole article and responded to it, which probably is responsible for other people reading the whole article. And then I responded to those people who responded to me responding to the article by Robert Kennedy Jr. that I can't explain why I read in the first place. Now, I found this article because I was looking for it on a news site, or I was just looking on a news site and I found it. And this news website is called the Huffington Post. And the Huffington Post is a website that was set up by Zsa Zsa Gabor so that her friends in Hollywood would have a voice finally in the media. Now, some of her friends are smart and some of her friends are not, just like regular people. And I'd tell you which ones are smart and which ones are not, but I think it's only proper to talk with their publicists before I make any public statement like that. Now, another story I found on the Huffington Post was about how the supermodel famous Kate Moss has a new boyfriend who I think is Harry Potter all grown up and on heroin. Now, I don't remember exactly what the article said exactly, but there were lots of pictures of Harry Potter and Kate Moss all grown up and on heroin. And I guess what I learned, one thing, is that even though Harry Potter's all grown up, he never learned how to tie a tie. And I think that's a tragedy. But there was at least one piece of good news that came out of this story, and that is that from now on, when my wife has sexy dreams about Harry Potter, at least she's not a child molester. And that's pretty important to me. Al Gore could tie a tie, but you may remember that he wore too many earth tones, and so I guess he had his fashion shortcomings too. I never really found that to be a problem, wearing too many earth tones, but I kind of thought that Miami Vice look was played out a while ago. Now, I didn't read about Al Gore's earth tones in the Huffington Post. Actually, where I read about this problem that he had was in the New York Times, and also I saw it on the TV news, and also I heard about it in conversations with people who read the New York Times and who watched the TV news. Something else that I read on the Huffington Post was that by the end of the century, some organization has predicted that 200 million people could die in Africa as a result of climate change and, diseases and stuff like that as a result from it. Now, I don't know if this is really a credible estimate or not. I mean, the group that did it, I think it's called Christian Aid. I mean, I don't know anything about them really, but I think it's pretty clear that they could be criticized as, just being shills for Big Jesus. And, so I think you probably have to take their personal financial motivations into consideration. But still, it's, 200 million, that's kind of a lot. And, I mean, I guess it's something you can't just kind of dismiss because, I'm a dinosaur right now, and I know that climate change can, have some pretty big effects. Now, I don't think people would become extinct. I mean, one thing that I know about dinosaurs is that their brains were really, really small. And so, they probably spent all their time looking at like little shiny things and, I don't know, playing with little bits of string and, kind of ignoring bigger problems because they just were kind of boring to them. I know it's Sunday morning, and I'm sorry for dropping this big thing on you about 200 million people who might die, and, it's kind of a big deal. And like I said, I don't know if it's true, so, probably there's some people out there who are like scientists or, economists or something, and they probably have all kinds of opinions about that, and, maybe they think it's true, and maybe they think it's not true, and maybe they think, well, maybe it's true given X, Y, and Z, but, I mean, it seems kind of boring, really, on the whole. I mean, probably, we could wait maybe 15 years, and, maybe Chelsea Clinton or somebody can write an article in Stuff magazine about how, that might be happening now and, in 15 years or so. And then, Greg Easterbrook can tell me whether that's true or not. And, I mean, I think that's the system we've worked out for these sorts of things, and I don't really think, it's my place to rock the boat necessarily. Yeah, well, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about this sort of thing, so hopefully this wasn't as boring as last time, even though I know I kind of ended it on a bummer, and I'm sorry about that.